guest speaker this morning, and that is David Irwin. And David is a artist and designer and the founder of Terra Projects, his design studio. And his title this morning is called Home, Housing Our Patience in Trust. And of course, our homes come in many shapes and sizes, both in the physical form and the formless. The quotes today that David has chosen is first one by Ralph Waldo Emerson. Every spirit builds itself a house, and beyond its house a world, and beyond its world a heaven. Build therefore your own world. The second quote is by Kahlil Gibran, the prophet. Your house shall be not an anchor, but a mast. And the third quote by Henry David Thoreau, Walking. A town is saved not by the righteous men in it, then by the woods and swamps that surround it. The affirmation for today that David has chosen: home is the feeling of, and so in a moment, we will hear more from David and what the home is the feeling of. So let's welcome David to the pulpit.
Thank you, Chuck. All right. So I was driving here this morning in my van and passed by a street called Emerson Street, and it reminded me of Ralph Waldo Emerson, given the name, obviously. But specifically, he's got this great poem. It's called Nature, which one of those quotes is from. And there's this word in one of the poems I had to look up. I didn't know what it meant. It's consanguity. And that word, what it means is this kind of brotherly connection. And the way he was using it, it was between humans and nature. And really, that's the essence of life, you can say, right? That connection between the two. And regarding home, I recently got a new roommate. So I recently moved to another location in the high desert. And I heard a big thud about 2 days ago and thought nothing of it, and kept working on my computer. And what wound up happening is a couple hours later, I walk outside and I see a little sparrow on the ground. I think his wing is now broken. So I have a new roommate, named him Philip Glass, and he's recovering. He's able to get out of the little towel nest I made him, and he's flopping around and running around. So we both have a new home, you can say, as of late. So I've designed many things in my life. I've also drawn a lot of different things. As a kid, building forts, drawing Dragon Ball Z characters, to in college studying furniture design and architecture. And I'm sure many artists on this call and just people that have a passion about something, there's moments where you are able to really channel something, right? And I wager that for all of us, when you're channeling that thing, be it cooking, be it flower arranging, be it a pastel drawing or what have you, inside of you, there's a familiar place that you're tapping into, right? And that place is a place I'd like for you to consider that's what home is, right? It's this connection to something greater than yourself that really, there's just something about it that feels so lovely. And it's to take a phrase from Michael Beckwith from Agape, you can think of it as a kind of a feeling tone, right? And with that kind of feeling tone of home, that's something I recently have really leaned on with my work. So I've designed different things in the past, as I had mentioned, commercial spaces, concept designs for retreat centers. And as of late, I'm designing homes in the high desert. Now, with designing homes in the high desert, I've just come upon a process that works for me right now, right? And that process is, I realized after thinking about what I wanted to put together for this talk, that process really boils down to some simple principles, and I want to share those with everybody today. So the first principle, so each space evokes emotion. Plan accordingly. And just consider your own spaces, whether it be the space inside of your car or inside of your house or your workplace or wherever. So each space evokes emotion. Plan accordingly. Whether we know it or not, each and every single space, whether it be the space inside of your jacket or your bedroom, kitchen, there's an emotion that comes out that's evoked by that space, whether it be the texture on the walls, where your mother bought you that really great coffee maker that you use all the time. There's little teeny micro things that add up to the emotion in a space. Obviously, those are the kinds of spaces that we want, right? These spaces that evoke this kind of warm feeling. To flip it and go the other way, just to give you a sense. So I'm sure we've all seen, at least in movies, what it looks like inside of a prison or a jail. Now, those spaces, you can say, they're invoking something and evoking something, right? I myself, I had an unpaid, I think it was an underage drinking ticket from when I was 17. I was about 22, 23. I was eating my lunch on a dock in Brooklyn. Cop comes up, hey, you're trespassing. I gave him a little bit of lip. I thought it was, not that big of a deal. And he ran my ID, and I spent 24 hours in a jail cell, and I had to, pay some money and get out of it. So anyway, I go into this jail cell, and it's all concrete masonry block wall, and there's feces on the wall, and the bench is cold, and the lighting's horrible, and there's metal bars that are, they haven't been painted in 35 years, and it was just a horrible experience, as one can imagine. But in that experience, I realized I never want to be in this thing ever again, right? So the spaces that we're in, they do something to you, whether you know it or not. And we all have the power to be able to change that space. Put some flowers, maybe repaint something, Hey, there's a really cool tile that you like, great, put it in your bathroom, figure it out, These little teeny things, they can really change your life. So that's the first one. So the second principle, trade your routine for consistent mental clarity. So whether we know it or not, the spaces that we live in and occupy, they really train us. We're not training those spaces, right? So if you have your normal routine in a space and you don't really like it, change it, right? And what I would say is, whatever brings the most mental clarity to you. Maybe it means let's throw everything out. I'm going to throw out my coffee table, throw out the chairs, donate it, do whatever you got to do. But you come down to the basis of simplicity, right? You just keep it simple. Just to give you a little taste of what I'm talking about with that spaces train us. I lived in Rome for 4 months studying architecture. When I was there for the semester, I was in this beautiful area called Trastevere, gorgeous. You could spread out your arms and touch both walls inside of the streets, right? It was designed for, horse and buggies back, 400, 500, 600 years ago. Now, in those spaces, the light doesn't really get in. It's dark. It feels kind of cozy. You're passing other people. you're catching a conversation with somebody sitting outside of a little cafe right there. There's a coziness to it. There's a warmth to it. And inevitably, when you're walking through the streets of Rome, what you're walking toward is a church somewhere, right? A piazza. Now, when you arrive in that piazza is no longer something that you can touch on either sides. It's something that's standing 100 feet tall and it is extremely wide. What happens in that moment is you have this expansiveness that just exists, and it is overwhelming, whether you are spiritual, religious, whatever you are or not. That space completely changes your way of being. So I'd like for you to consider that in your own spaces, and if you're working on a project, you're arranging flowers, you're putting together a plate of cheese and crackers and strawberries for your friend that's coming over, the way in which you do these things, there can be an essence to it that will absolutely change the way that we, again, that Michael Beckwith phrase that's so powerful, that feeling tone. It really can affect us. So the third principle, so home is a blend of both untouched nature and what I like to call molded nature. Molded nature being, humans have taken hold of it, cut that tree down, turn it into a, 2x4, that's molded nature. Remove every element that disrupts harmony between the two. This is a principle that it's so simple. It's so simple. And it's one of the reasons why we love fresh cut flowers. It's one of the reasons why we love that cool succulent or cacti that we put in our bathroom or our kitchen, right? No matter how much we push as a culture to create a city that is better and all this stuff, we always want that untouched nature, right? And there is a article that was written in the Atlantic. I believe it was September 7th of 2019. And for the first time in X amount of years, the population of Chicago, New York, and Los Angeles was shrinking, and people were moving to rural areas. And then, of course, the pandemic happened, and there's many people coming out to rural areas like the high desert where this talk is being given right now. So just consider that something as simple as gardening is, if you're living in a city, it's something that it's not only passing the time, it's so soothing to the soul. Because again, going back to the beautiful Ralph Waldo Emerson phrase, that consanguinity, right? He talks about consanguinity with nature, humans and nature. We are nature. There is a blood connection there. And never forget that. Just keep it simple. It could be something like a cactus. It could be, something like, or, you buy a beautiful piece of land with a lot of beautiful trees on it and you build a house right next to these trees, right? So the fourth principle is an optimal home is designed for our most trying days. So this month has been a pretty tough month for me. And as I said, I just recently moved into a new place. This new place happens to have a fireplace inside. And that fireplace that's been my rock, right? My kind of Babylon to retreat to. And it's been so soothing. Now one can say, well, what's the use of a fireplace not in the winter, in the summer, right? I don't know, maybe you put some nice flowers in front of it or put a nice rock in front of it or something like that. But the thing is, it's not for the summer, it's for the winter. And maybe, there's electric heat in this house, but it does something for the soul. So anytime I'm considering a space, it's really what are those special moments that are going to be occurring in this space. I had a great conversation with a good friend of mine that may be on this call. I'm designing a house right now, and there's a long hallway. And he said, hey, what's the payoff to walk down that hallway? Yeah, you're going into you got your bathroom and your bedrooms. But what's the payoff? You get to the end of the hallway, what do you get, I thought about it, and I did some redesign, and now there's a nice little kind of tea lounge area at the end. Well, you know, you discover it. It's small and it's quaint. It's a little cozy space. But that could be a space where there's a really important conversation that happens in the future, 60 years from now, like the conversation that changes somebody's life. Or it's just somebody had a rough day and they want to go back there and they're going to smoke a cigarette by themselves, and that's what that is. But there are these spaces that can be created for the hardest of days. The fifth principle, so contemplate this. What does my inner child seek to increase comfort and to maximize play, right? So this, a simple example would be, you know, you love fiddling around on the guitar, so you get a guitar and you got a little place where you play guitar in your house. For me, this also involves process too, right? So there's a project that I was asked to design, to redesign the concept for, and it was amazing honors. The Institute of Noetic Sciences in Petaluma, they were doing a massive renovation. And the Institute of Noetic Sciences was started in the 70s by Edgar Mitchell, the astronaut, and it's beginning to bridge the worlds of science and spirituality. Amazing place, amazing people there, amazing mission. So at the time, I was getting into tarot, which I'm still very into and interested in, and started to think, okay, great, I'm going to do some redesign. It's going to be really fun, but how do I want to start this process? So what I did was I took the 22 major arcana, it's kind of like the face cards of tarot, and I said, what if there was one building in particular I was focusing on. I said, what if I riffed on these and did 22 versions of the same building, each one in the essence of that archetype of that card, right? I took 2 months off work of doing work for other clients, and I spent those 2 months just doing nothing but working on this project. Built a site model and just rigorously went through if the Fool were a building, it was the New Discovery Center, what would it be, right? So that whole process for me was so much fun. I did it completely out of pocket, and it was an amazing experience. And I had so much fun doing it. So again, contemplate what is your inner child, right? What is going to increase comfort and maximize play in all these different areas of your life? Sixth principle. So home is a feeling that arises in an instant, If you think about something like love, which we've all been in love, right? Love can happen quick, right? You hear people, all the phrases, right? Oh my God, love at first sight, right? But then there's also been relationships I'm sure we've all had. It's a slow burn, it's a different type of love, right? But home, the feeling of home, it's noetic. You just know it. Hey, this feels good. This feels right. This feels like home. Honey, where do you want to sit? I want to sit there. Why? I don't know. That's where I want to sit. It feels most comfortable. Something about it. Okay, right? So for me, when I think of that, I think back to when I was 5, right? I'm in my grandma's house. We're standing on top of the steps in the kitchen, and there's a mailman's, a postman's box at the end of the stair, and we would throw cans, the empty cans down. And I just remember throwing them down there with her. I was having so much fun. And it felt so good. It was just so beautiful. And it was the same feeling when, I was maybe 4, 5, 6, and Thanksgiving dinner at grandma's, and I'm, got to go to the bathroom. So what do? There's 16 adults around the table. I go under the table, of course, right? So go down and, feel the carpet on my hands and on my forearms and my knees, and I'm crawling and I wiggle through and I run to the bathroom and I, come back and they're talking about a bunch of adult stuff. But when I have those memories, as I'm sure we all do, that's home. That's home, right? I'm sure many of us have heard, a home is what you make it, it's what you bring to it, right? And a house is the material form. But just consider that essence of whatever home is to you, you have the ability to transform material space. So the seventh principle, so the feeling of home precedes always the physical manifestation of home. So before you can create something that resonates in emotion with somebody, I wager it has to resonate inside of you first, right? So within my own process that I do now when I'm designing houses, what I first do is I go to the site, take in the land, walk around, basically go on a hike. I leave, maybe I'll come back a second time, take a look at it, and just let the feeling of the land kind of resonate with me, right? Maybe I have a cup of coffee, just walk around, do a little sketching or something like that. Then what I do is I say, okay, great. Okay, I think I got that. I start to write some words, some poetry, and start to put kind of clumpings of words together that remind me of that feeling with being on the site. And then only once that gets locked in, maybe it's a paragraph long or something like that, do I then move on and design an actual building and bring physical form to it. And the process is sure to change in the future, as everything does. But at the moment, it really occurs to me that you have to pull from the not tangible, and then you put it into form. And we all have that power in whatever it is that we're doing. You think about that feeling, and then you begin to move that through whatever medium it is that you're acting within. And the eighth principle, details make all the difference. They make all the difference. So something I want you to consider right now is, where do you keep your dental floss? Where do you keep it, right? Is it tucked away under your sink in your bathroom in that toiletry bag you never really use, and you pull it out every now and again and you use a little dental floss and you throw it back in there? Or is it maybe right on top of, the sink? It may seem like a weird question, but just consider that, when we're taking care of ourselves in different ways, right? I certainly don't floss as much as I would like to, or my dentist tells me I should. We can feel a little bit of shame, right? So are we going into that weird little corner and grabbing that thing and then we're using it and stashing it away again? Or do we maybe proudly have it right on top of the counter? It's like, yeah, I floss, that's right. Once a month, but hey, I floss, that's me, right? I do it. So it's little things like that, right? There's a little bit of dignity that you gain or lose depending on where you keep your dental floss. There's a little bit of maybe goodness that you can soak up if you say, hey, I'm going to meditate today. Great, I meditated for a grand total of 30 seconds this morning. Hey, I meditated today. Or maybe it's 30 minutes, whatever it is. But these little teeny things that we do with our time, they compound. And what happens is that these details begin to add up, and several little things become, that's the essence of your life. So the essence of what home is for us is defined by us in our own individual way. And many times, especially when we're going through hard times, we're going to seek out other teachers and all sorts of different means to make ourselves feel safe, secure, loved, beautiful, right? These different feelings that just, they feel so good and so wonderful. And we are also powerful to be able to bring that about inside of ourselves, whatever it is we're doing in every corner of our lives. So I think that's a good place to leave it. And I hope you have a really beautiful weekend, and wherever you happen to be, just consider that that you're the one to begin to bring some levity, to bring whatever it is that you feel is missing. You're the one that is able to change that in the spaces that you occupy, whether it be the inside of your jacket, the way you keep your, maybe a Kleenex in your pocket, the inside, to the way that the new home that you're dreaming up is going to sit on that beautiful piece of land. Have a beautiful day.
Lately I just say I'm out of town, 'cause I don't really care to be around. I've been making up for my mistakes.